Hey guys, John Bunch here with Bunch's Diesel. So today we've got a 2019 truck that we're going to do a DCR conversion on. This is going to be a really close, as far as instructional video. We may do one of the earlier trucks later, but this is going to kind of be a walkthrough instructional video on how to do those, because that's kind of becoming more and more popular on these trucks, just to get rid of that failure-prone CP4. So we'll get the truck in the shop, do y'all walkthrough on how we do the DCR conversions. And if you want to do it yourself at home, you can. Or if you want to bring it to us, you see our process of how to do it. So we'll get it in here, get some video going, and we'll check it out. So first step, buddy, just kind of getting everything laid out here. We'll have a few lines and we'll kind of go through everything. So getting the parts laid out. So this is the SNS kit. Truck's already got a couple modifications to it. We'll go ahead and get rid of some other things while we're in here, but we won't show any of that. But once we get a little farther down in there, we'll kind of show you how everything works and go from there. So here's all our parts. SNS does a good job of bagging and tagging everything. It's individual, so you've got the different adapters and plugs and such, and I'll obviously go through them all as we use them. This is going to kind of be a general overview of what I'll use in the kit. All right, guys, so getting started here, we're going to get the intake off. That's going to be an 8mm worm clamp there. Get the batteries disconnected, and then go ahead and get this thing here off. There's a bunch of videos online how to take that off. If you don't know what that is, you don't have no business working on your truck, take it somewhere else. But go ahead and get some of this stuff took off here, and we will get some video footage as we get it off. So you got, a couple of screws here to get off. So that's kind of a before shot, and I'll let him get some of this stuff done and show y'all what we're at when we get to that point.
All right, now that we've got that out of the way, what we're gonna do is pull our two-piece intake here and pull our fan. And whenever you're pulling this upper intake here, it's all 8s. You're gonna have, I think, 5 right through here. Then you're gonna have 4 on this intake manifold and 4 back here on this intake manifold. You'll take your dipsticks, tubes off and out of the way. You can also take your fuel filter out and get it out of the way once all that is done. And then your cowl here, if you look, you've got, I've already pulled them, but right here is a push pin. And there's another one on this side under this upper cowl. To get that off, you just pop these little tabs out and it'll come up. You can pull those 2 push pins, and then this will raise up and give you the rest of the clearance you need to get this up and out of here. So we'll get that done. We'll get back with y'all.
So taking the intake bolts out that we showed you a minute ago.
All right, we've got this upper intake off. There's 7 8mm bolts right on top here that bolts it to the lower intake, and then each side is going to have a set of 4 bolts. This one here is going to be a 12. It's a stud for one of your dipsticks, but the other ones are all 8mm. And to get this out of here, this fan, the cowl here, raising it up will help a lot. But there's also a coolant line, hard line. This one right here, it simply goes right around there. It's 2 8mm bolts that hold it in there. Take those 8mm bolts out and then just kind of wiggle it out. Make sure not to damage the O-ring, because that will be reused. And once you get that upper piece out, this hot side intercooler pipe is a whole lot easier to get out. It's got a snap ring in there, and then just a hose clamp on the intercooler over here. Now to get the lower intake off, we've got another snap ring here for this intercooler pipe, a 8mm hose clamp there, and then just 3 10mm bolts here and 10 here. You'll take both those out, and then that'll just lift up out of there. And then you've got your crankcase vent port right here. This is your line. It'll go right there to your crankcase filter. On these, sometimes you can get lucky and pull, and these will come off. Other times you'll have to cut this essentially heat shrink right here off, and it'll open that up, and then you'll see there's 2 different sections in there, and you'll just twist and it'll disengage this set of barbs here. If I can get it showed right there, And there, if once you twist the two parts, it'll disengage those barbs and then it'll slide right off. All right, now that we've got the upper and lower intakes off, we're gonna start working on some of these fuel lines and stuff. On the driver's side here, you're gonna have this piece of carpet sound deadener if you've not done any kind of fuel related work to your truck. They're just held on by 4 of these Christmas tree clips. You just take a panel popper, you can pop them off, a pair of pliers, whatever you've got. You're gonna have this fuel line here. It's gonna have 2 brackets. Let's see if I can get over here. There's gonna be a bracket right there with an 8mm bolt and one right there with an 8mm bolt. You're gonna take both those 8mm bolts out, and then right back here, this fuel line, there's gonna be that brass nipple on your fuel rail. You're gonna take that line off. It's one of those fuel line push lock fittings. You'll just use one of the tools, get in there and pop it off. And then up top here, I'm gonna unbolt our 2 main feed lines to the CP4. It's an 8mm bolt. They just go right over here. One is gonna be that large line that went down to your fuel rail. The other line here will go to your fuel filter. You just unpop this little bracket fuel retainer off, and then this one here will unbolt right there on the back and unbolt it there, and then you'll just pop that up and out the way, and then we'll start working on getting the rest of these lines out. All right, so we've got the main feed lines out of our pump now. You're gonna have a coolant line going from this nipple to the top of your turbo. It's gonna be a T45 bolt. And that's what you're going to use to take that out. Just wiggle it out and then get it out of your way. And then we're going to start taking the rest of our fuel lines off here. So you've got one right there on your passenger side rail. It's going to be 17mm. And then you're going to take this 8mm bolt out. That holds that line in place. And then you're going to have 3 line keepers. One down there on the bottom, one here, and one more right there. You're gonna take all those out. They're all 8mm bolts. Take all those loose. Your 2 main lines here on the back of your CP4 are both gonna be 19 mils. Over here on the driver's side rail, we've got 3 lines we've got to take off on this side, and it's gonna be these 3 right here in line. So it's gonna be this line, and then this front line here. So those 3 lines are all going to be 17s. You're going to take those out. You can take them out one at a time. That way you can get it around your dipstick and your crankcase vent hose and all your wire harness and stuff here. Also, go ahead and pull the connector off your first injector here to give you a little bit more room in your wiring harness here to get it up out of your way a little bit better. So we're going to get those ripped out, and then we'll get back with y'all. All right, guys, whenever you're pulling these lines out, the 2 that run from your CP4 to your driver's side head, those both are getting tossed. They're not going to be reused. You get new lines with your DCR pump, but the line that connects your passenger and driver's side fuel rails will be reused. The kit says you can just take it loose and kind of bend it over out of the way, but I find it just as easy to go ahead and pull the whole line out since it is getting reused. That way you don't have to fight what you bent to straighten it back out to get it to line up. When you're taking lines off though, you want to be careful not to pry when you're loosening them on your return line ports here, because they are just plastic. They will break off. And then, like I said, got all that disconnected now. We're going to pull this line up here out of the way. That way we ain't got to worry about straightening it back out. It's just easier to pull it out. All right, guys, we got that front cover off now. This vacuum line here, depending on what year your truck is, you're either going to have this style, which is going to be a push fitting here. You just push this white tab back and it'll disengage and you'll slide it off that nipple there. And the earlier model trucks will have a hose clamp right there. And you'll just take a hose clamp off, slide it off. And then to get this vacuum pump off, there's 4 8mm bolts. There's one right on top there, you can see. One right here. One right there. And then there'll be one more on the bottom. And then that'll take that vacuum pump off, and then you can get to your CP4 gear. Alright guys, this is our vacuum pump here. On the earlier model trucks, if I'm not mistaken, the 11 to 16 vacuum pumps, you have to get a new gasket every time you take the vacuum pump off. But the 17 and newer trucks have this O-ring seal in here. So just keep that in mind depending on the year of your truck to either get the gasket if you're those earlier model trucks. Alright guys, so this here is what you're looking for on your cam gear. The single black mark. On your CP4 gear, you're looking for that double black mark. And once you've got that lined up, if you need to rotate this motor over, this one here is going to be a 12.18mm bolt. You just get to it, the bolts here on the balancer. That's how you'll spin this motor over. From there, you'll take a 27mm socket, take your CP4 drive nut off, and then back here on the back, you'll take these 2 8mm bolts loose from this bracket. That'll get you to your CP4 studs. There's going to be 3 of them, 13mm, one here, and one on the very bottom. You'll take those 3 13mm out, and then you're ready to pull your CP4. On this big drive nut here, if you don't have an impact that'll fit in here, I don't. You just take your 1/2" ratchet, give it a good smack. They're not that tight, and that should break it loose. And if that don't work, you can just hold your crank down here while you break this loose. Either way. And then before we pull the CP3 out or CP4 out, you want to make sure to get as much of the coolant out of this valley here as you can. That way when you pull this CP4 out, you don't have to worry about that running down your front cover and your oil passages and then having to change oil. So just take a little shop vac or something, get all that coolant out that you can. And then from here, I've got all those 13 CP4 nuts loose or out. From here, what I'll do is I'll take, sometimes these pumps can be a little stuck in here and stubborn to get out. I'll take 2 hammers, one, and I'll set it against that shaft there for your CP4 and hit that hammer with another. That way you don't have to worry about marring up your gear or anything like that. And once that comes loose, this gear will come out of here. So be mindful of that. And these gears are helical cut, so it's not going to come straight out. As you pull it out, it'll twist a little bit just for these gears where they're not a straight cut gear. Now that we have the CP4 out of here and the gear out, you're going to want to take these 2 15mm studs on each side. And to do that, you will need, where did I set it? You will need one of these wobble 15mm sockets. It's got to be like this. You can't use a wobble extension with a socket on the end of it because it will be too long to get in that front cover. You're going to take those 2 15mm out. Now you're going to reach down in here, and you're more or less just going to break these studs loose with the ratchet. They are reverse thread, I'm pretty sure. Okay, they're normal threads. You're just going to get them broke loose. And then from there, you're just going to take your hand and you're going to spin it out. They will get tight as you try and come out through here. They'll start to hit that front cover a little bit. You do want to take care not to drop these in this front cover, because if you do, then the whole front cover is coming off to get them back out. You're just going to twist them out until the threads disengage. Then you're going to pull them out. And as you get close to that front cover, you're going to continue to spin them out by hand until you get past that front cover. Just like it. And you're going to pull both of these out. The bottom one you're going to leave in there. You just got to pull these out for your adapter plate for your CP DCR pump. Now that we've got that all done, you're going to take you some form of gasket scraper and just clean up this mounting surface right here. Now that you've got those studs out, clean up that mounting surface, clean up your hole here for your O-ring on your DCR pump. Get all that clean, that way you're making sure you're not going to cut that O-ring or anything going back in. And then you want that mounting surface clean of any debris. That way when we put this adapter plate on here, it's sitting nice and flush and it don't put your DCR pump in any kind of odd angle, making it harder to put that gear and stuff back on. This is our adapter plate here. It comes with new bolts in the kit and a little tube of blue Loctite. These studs here are going to replace those studs we just took out. You're going to put the short end of the studs in your plates here, thread them in by hand as far as they'll go, and our new star bits here are going to go in these alignment dial holes into the holes that we initially took out of the block air for the factory CP4. So these are just going to bolt straight in, get this plate lined up where it needs to be, and this here is going to be the new studs for our DCR pump here. And whenever you're putting all this back together, you're going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on the short ends of your studs here, and then whenever you're putting these T-bolts in, you're going to put blue Loctite on those as well. Now that we've got our plate in here and our alignment screws in, get this sensor out of the way here so y'all can see a little bit better. What you're going to do from here, you're going to torque those. They're T45s, and you're going to torque those in two steps. You're going to torque them first at 10 foot-pounds, and then your final torque is going to be 42 foot-pounds. And when you're installing these, you want to put blue Loctite on the threads, and then you're going to put a little bit of blue Loctite around the countersink section of the heads of these bolts, just to reduce any friction as you're tightening these down, to make sure your plate's nice and centered well and just straight. And that's what the two-step torque sequence is for as well. So you're going to torque them both at 10 foot-pounds, and then you're going to do your final torque at 42 foot-pounds. And then after that, you're going to put your two alignment dowel studs in, which are these upper two holes here that you're seeing. You're going to put blue Loctite on the short end of those threads and then thread them in by hand as far as you can go. Don't worry about grabbing pliers or anything like that to tie them on down in there. You just want to get them good and sunk all the way in by hand. You shouldn't need pliers or anything to put them in. We're ready to put our DCR pump in now. So what you're going to do, take that blue Loctite and put it on these three studs here you've got. And then just be sure to put a good coating of oil on your DCR pump O-ring. That way it slides in a little bit easier, and it also prevents any kind of tearing or cutting of that O-ring. So just put you some Loctite on these, lubricate your O-ring on your DCR pump, and then slide it in. Once you got your DCR pump back in here, you're going to go ahead and put your gear and stuff back in. If you see that timing keyway right there in that gear, it's on the shaft. The easiest way to get these lined up is get that pin closest you can to 12 o'clock, and then once you get it there, you'll just slide this gear on and off until you get her to mate back together like she is now. You get your single mark in between your double mark, and then once you get it there, you'll just put your nut back on, torque it. But yeah, once you get your pump timed to 12 o'clock, you'll just sit there and slide your gear on and rotate it slightly until you get her to line up just like that. Now that that's all lined up, you're going to torque it. Your drive gear nut to 60 foot-pounds, and then your 3 13 mils for your DCR pump. They're going to first torque to 10 foot-pounds, make sure everything's centered up, and then they're going to final torque to 18 foot-pounds. On your vacuum pump, guys, I forgot to get a video of it before I installed it, but that gearing, I guess you could call it a gear inside that vacuum pump, you're just going to spin it and get it straight up and down in line with your nut hole here on the front of your vacuum pump. And that will get you fairly close to being lined up with those notches inside that gear. Once you push it together, you'll just kind of sit your pump up here and you'll kind of work it kind of back and forth until it falls in place, and then once it does, you can just put all your bolts back in and tighten them down. With the vacuum pump back on, those 4 bolts will torque to 89 inch-pounds. And then we're going to go ahead and got some of these high pressure lines back in. Whenever you're putting these in, you want to start with your short driver side first. You'll run it. It'll go to the 3rd port on this driver side fuel rail here. You'll just get hand tight on the fuel rail side, and then on the actual pump itself, you're going to go ahead and torque out into 26 foot-pounds. And what I use for that is a 17 mil crow's foot here. It allows you to get on there and actually torque it. Once that one's torqued, you'll go ahead and install your longer passenger side high pressure fuel line. Same thing, it'll go on the 2nd port on the driver's side fuel rail here. Once again, you'll just get it hand tight on that fuel rail, and then you'll torque it to 26 foot-pounds in here. And then once you get both of those torqued, the DCR pump comes with a new fuel line bracket here. It'll just go right down in here, and it'll reuse the factory bolts and bolt towards the end of those DCR studs there, and it'll hold your fuel lines. So we're gonna get that put on and we'll get back with y'all. Put all our lines back in. All our lines, all our hold downs are in. The 2 high pressure lines down here toward the 26 foot-pounds, and then you'll put your bracket and stuff in, and your fuel line that connects your 2 fuel rails. Once you get that in there, you can torque the rest of these lines. So all the other ones still torque to 26 foot-pounds as well. Same thing works with those, crow's foot. Get down in there, torque those, and then all your hold downs here, 2 here, 2 here, 1 in the bottom, and then this one and this one for your other crossover line are all going to be torqued to 89 inch-pounds. And then from there, we're going to put the supply line in, and with the DCR kit comes with a new supply line here. Depending on the year model of your truck, you may either have 2 sensors or 1 sensor. If you've got the 1 sensor like this model truck, you're going to put your plug in the furthest forward port closest to your rubber line. And for that plug, they also send an adapter that you'll put in, and then your sensor. Your sensor is a 1 1/16. Your adapter here is going to be an 18 mil, and then your plug here is a 5 mil. We've got our supplied low pressure lines in. This is the factory hold down bolt you'll take out of the old set. There's a little plastic keeper that won't be reused. You'll put blue Loctite on this and torque it to 89 inch-pounds. There's the sensor for your line. Back here in the back, it goes back on the fuel rail just like the old one. This bolt here, hold down bolt, 89 inch-pounds. Just start putting your lines back in, pushing the retainers back over. And from this point here, you're pretty much done. You just put it all back together. Put the fan hub back on, put the fan belt, all that back in. Put your upper and lower intakes in, your charge pipes, all that. That's got you wrapped up. Put the fan, everything back on, belts on, upper and lower intakes in. Your lower intake here, these 10 mil head bolts are going to torque to 18 foot-pounds. Then all your 8 mil bolts, the 7 up here and the 4 on each side over there, are all going to torque to 89 inch-pounds.
Okay, everybody, so that's pretty much going to wrap up the 17 and newer DCR conversion. The only thing we didn't show is at the very end, you want to make sure and cycle the key 4 or 5 times to make sure you've got ample fuel up to the front of the truck. But other than that, the job's pretty well done. If you like this kind of content, like, being able to try to do stuff at home and these kind of walkthroughs, make sure and leave us a comment of maybe other jobs that you'd like to see done. Because we're primarily Duramax. We do a lot of the new 6.7 stuff, but primarily Duramax and newer Cummins and newer Powerstroke. So if you're in that realm, make sure, and like I said, leave us a comment. Next time we have one of those jobs in the shop, we'll try to get a video of it to, like I said, help you all out, let you save a little bit of money. We're happy to do the job for you, or if you have any more questions about anything, just feel free to give us a call or leave us a comment. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.